Hey everybody, I want to talk about a product and platform that I absolutely love and our latest sponsor, Interseller, the prospecting and outreach platform of choice for recruiters and sellers. Whether you're doubling down on business development or recruiting talent, Interseller does all the heavy lifting of finding contact data, automating the email and follow-up process, and syncs all that rich data into 20 plus CRM and ATS platforms. Reach out now and get going on a 2-week free trial and let them know you heard about it from Adam on the podcast today. Check out the link on the website. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast where I bring you the best and the brightest in the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today, Kelly Cardenas, is an author, podcaster, and founder, CEO of a national multi-million-dollar salon brand and a cultural efficiency coach. I want to know what that is. He's a go-to when it comes to constructing a culture that will have sustained success in all aspects of your business. He believes that building an iconic brand, business, and empire is a simple process once we start to focus on what really matters. And Cardenas' system zeroes in on the heartbeat of any organization, which are the people. And I'm excited to unpack his career journey and find out what the real Kelly is all about. So let's do this. Kelly, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on, man. You are a genius. I've been listening to you for quite some time, and I'm a huge fan. So
I appreciate that. And I made a mistake as a podcaster. So here's a little podcast 101. So typically before I record every show, I ask a guest, no matter how much I think I know how to pronunciate their last name, how to say it. So did I say it right? Is it Cardenas?
Oh, yeah, Cardenas. Yeah. My grandma would be mad at you.
Why?
But she always said that it was Cardenas, which it is. But I didn't
could roll my R's, but I'm not doing it
know,
on the show here and butchering your name.
So you're fine. You're fine. She would just hit you with a pan.
Oh no! Well, my mom used to hit me with a wire hanger when I was little, and that was brutal too. So let's let's bring everyone up to speed here. And anybody who's watching the video clips, you'll see that Kelly is sitting in a pretty awesome chair, and I love his setup here. We got between two ferns, but I guess you call it between two perms because you're in the hair care business. So we could call. You're like, I never even thought of it. Tell me you never thought of between two perms.
No, I haven't. That's a funny one though. I like it.
I mean, you could do a spin-off on it. So let's talk about your career trajectory. And I want to take it back to the 4th grade, where your father used to make you write 10 pages of notes a day before you could go outside. About, it happened, you wanted to purchase this course, right? This $4,500 course. Tell us about that story.
Well, he bought the course, so he didn't have the money. But it was one of those things. It was the personal development. It was before it all got really, popular. But he bought the course, and there was the course for the parents that they listened to, and then we literally would have to listen to, motivational, inspirational, and practical application tips. We would have to listen to them and then take 10 pages of notes before we could go out and play every day, which made us not that happy as 4th and 5th graders.
But what kind of course was this? I mean, was it like a Tony Robbins type course? I mean, what was the impetus behind it? Was it self-improvement? Why do you want you guys to?
It was a Millionaire course. And basically what it was, teaching you principles, how to become a millionaire. And one of the principles was to go out and sell this course to a bunch of other people. So, what was
MLM.
Yeah, what was great about it though, Adam, is all the principles that I was mad at because I couldn't play with my friends right after school are all the principles that I built my career and my company on years and years later that I had no idea. And I still have the notebooks to this day. And that's why when my wife reads them, she knows why I'm weird.
Isn't that interesting how that works? Those early lessons. And let me ask you, what did your dad do for a living?
My dad was in the military at the time, so he worked with NASA. He was one of the first 7 safety people with NASA, which was the Lucky 7. But he always had dreams of grandeur. And so he always had in his mind that whatever you put your mind to, it was very simple. You just lock onto it and then you focus on it until you get it. And that was right in line with that course. And so it took us quite a journey. But, like I said, I took the positive parts out of it and I utilize all the principles today.
Where did the entrepreneurial spirit come from that you have today? Did your dad have it? Did your mom? Did anybody else in that family? Did anyone have that bug, that itch that you need to scratch? Where'd that come from?
I never really had the bug or the itch. It was forced into me. I mean, my dad said that I had to take 10 pages of notes. I had to listen to what he called sleep teaching. So he put a Walkman headphone in my pillow and my brother's pillow, and we have to listen to it all night while we slept. We had to listen to motivational tapes. And then he made us have to mow 3 lawns before we got to play on Saturday. So it was forced. It wasn't
Did that
a
haunt your
situation.
dreams? Like, did you have nightmares about what you were listening to? Like, that had to affect, I mean, any child psychologists out there, I don't know what they would think about this, but looking back on it, I guess it worked out fine.
Mhm. Well, it's subconscious learning. You look at it today,
Right.
getting into the subconscious is one of those things. And for me, if you do the math on it, I did 70 hours a week, which was 10 hours a day. And, in 50 weeks, it's 3,500. In 2 years, I did 7,000 hours of self-improvement
ridiculous.
before I was in 6th grade. So to put that in perspective, if you were to do 1 hour a day now, it would take you 20 years to get what I got by the time I was in 6th grade.
Well, something worked out there. So let's get to the hair story, because I think this is really interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong here. Your dad bought you a pair of clippers in the 5th grade, and you started cutting the family dog's hair, right? And then your brother. How did this work out? Like, was there again? Where did this kind of interest and desire with cutting hair came from?
Well, it came out of desperation, man, which I think is the greatest inspiration, right? So we didn't have any money. My dad thought he could save money by shaving the dog. We tried it one time. We didn't chain the dog up, which you're supposed to.
Oh,
And the dog ran away. And my brother turned the clippers on me. And he was bigger than me. My older brother was bigger than me. So it was either take a beat down or take a haircut. And I was down with taking a haircut.
Right. And so then what happened? How did you get the clippers back in your hand for the first time?
Well, I mean, my buddy, Will, shout out to him, best friend since I was in 4th grade. He needed a haircut. He didn't have any money either. And, he was the guinea pig. We jacked him up really, really bad. His mom was mad at us. And, but it was that thing in me that my dad told me and my mom always told me, no matter what you ever did, it's to take and focus and be the best at that thing. So when I was cutting hair, I just simply wanted to be the best at that thing that I possibly could be. And I started to look at how could I make the fade better? How could I, do these things better? And it just started to progress that way.
I love it. There's such an art to it, and luckily for me, I found the great. There's a difference. Let's talk about it, right? Like, how do you describe the difference between a barber and a hairdresser?
Well, a barber can do a straight razor shave, and a hairdresser is not allowed to. That's really the only difference, technically.
So it's a technicality.
Yeah, 100%. It's just a licensing thing. I have respect for both sides, but what I found, Adam, was that for me, it was never about hair. It was never about a haircut. It was never about color. It was about the fact that the hair was a conduit to people. And if I could touch the soul of the person, I could do anything. And that's why, for me, it transcended so many things. And it helped me in my career today in the public speaking realm and the consulting realm and helping businesses to be able to grow. Because literally, if I can do it in the professional beauty industry, we found that we could do it in every other industry also.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And your brothers are pretty successful too. How much of that inspired you when you went to hairdressing school to really drive your own hustle and success?
Absolutely none of it. Seriously, my parents told me that never to compare yourself to anybody. They raised me on 3 principles, which was that I was awesome no matter what I did. I was beautiful and just being myself, never compare myself to anyone, and that I could do anything that I put my mind to, but just because I could do it didn't make it my purpose. And so as long as I was stayed in line with my purpose and I was willing to do the work that it took, that I could do anything. And so I went into it with almost a ignorant bliss and of optimism that said, like, let me try this out. Let me try it out and see. And if it doesn't work, shit, let's move on.
I mean, what else did you have in the back of your mind aside from being a hairdresser as far as business and a career?
For me, it was never about business. It was always about people. I just knew if I could get in front of somebody, magic could happen. And so everyone had always told me the methods, right? Like, here's the method, the 7 steps to success or whatever it was. And for me, it was never about the methods. It was about the moment. And if I could stay in the moment, I had crazy opportunities. And I found that, it was really, Adam, it was 3 basic principles. Number 1, be really kind, be of contribution to people. And when people walk away, that they feel like, wow, you added something to my life. Number 2, make a lot of friends. If you contribute to people, you'll make friends, and I tell you this, and I probably told you this on the first time we met. I told you that I would force you to be my friend for the rest of your life. And the last one is to work hard. And if you work hard at being kind, you'll make a lot of friends. And when you make a lot of friends, you don't have to be good at anything. You just end up in circles and the magic begins to happen.
I like that, right? Like, you create this circle around you, surrounding yourself with good people, but that takes a little bit of work too. People think it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I always say that, my wife and I, our net worth is not defined by how much money we have, but surrounded by the quality of the people that we have around us. And I truly believe it. And there's times when I look around and I'm just so thankful and grateful that we have, this community, this tribe of friends. And that's what it's really about, and deep friendships and adding value to each other. So back to the hair story, because I think it's pretty fascinating here. Why did you decide to become an educator in the hair space after you were trained and you got into business?
Well, I feel that I've always been blessed. I've always been blessed, but with so many people around me that have helped me in so many ways, and I wanted to help people. And I wanted to help, and I wanted to pass it on, because for me, my mind breaks things down into the lowest common denominator, right? So I look at a process, I cut away the fat. And when we cut away the fat, then it helps people to be more efficient. And when they're more efficient, they make more money and they get an opportunity to spend more time with their family, which is the reason why I wanted to help people in the first place.
I love it. So let's talk about your mentor, Paul Mitchell. How did you first, and listen, I think everybody should know who that is at this stage. How did you first meet him? And let's talk about that initial interaction.
Well, the guy you're talking about is actually John Paul DeJoria. So Paul Mitchell died in 1989. So most people wouldn't even know what he looks like. It's okay. No one does. But John Paul, I happened, just like everything else, it happened upon, I was looking for classes to go to, and a woman walked into our salon, said, I've got this class. I ended up at a place, and it was a certification for a national educator for Paul Mitchell, which I had no idea, but I was excited about it. I brought the excitement, the enthusiasm. I was in the moment, and guess what happened? Then when I first met him, I met him very quickly. Hi, my name is Kelly. I was taught just always look him in the eye and tell him your name. 2.5 years later, Adam, John Paul, the guy with the ponytail that everybody knows, right, walks into a room of about 80 people. People split because he's got that kind of presence. He walks through. I'm about halfway through the room. He walks right up to me and says, "Hey, Kelly, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while." And I was thinking, how in the world? How does he know me? 2 years. And I had only interacted with him one time. And then I asked him years later, I chased him down because he's a good friend of mine now. And I asked him, I said, John Paul, how do you do this? Because you do it with everyone. And I watch him. He said, I simply stay grateful. I stay grateful in my life, and it helps me to stay present. And when I'm present, there's magic in the moment.
Let's pause on that for a second there, because I think there's a lot of magic in what you just said. And I've seen some extremely successful and people who are known in pop culture do the same thing. I'm like, these people come into contact with so many people in their life who want their attention. How do they remember? Because it's almost a gratitude thing, because they know that they've achieved such success in their life that a great way to give it back is to be present and give that recognition, how much it means to somebody else. So they make a point of being super present. It's incredible. Something that I'm trying to do more in my life too. And I think it opens up, to your point, Kelly, it just opens up so many doorways and just positivity. That's tremendous. I love that story. Yeah, that's actually a good one. So let's talk a little bit about the salon experience, right? We've all seen those kind of those barbershop movies. But the salon, take us inside, the salon magic there, the dynamic, and what it really takes to create a fantastic salon experience for the folks that work there and for the customers. What's some of that secret sauce?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones is coming in with no agenda. And this is a place when in any space, in any business, and it transcends, right? Every time that someone comes in with an agenda, you can see them from a mile away. Someone trying to sell something on the back end, trying to, get you into a place and finally sell you on something. And what we taught always was that we wanted to walk in with no agenda except contributing to that person's life. How can we make that person's life better? And then what we did was we systemized it down to the lowest common denominator. And I find that, in any business, the systems inside the business, 95% of failure, Adam, is not people, it's systems. And if you will create the systems, manage the systems, and love the people, there's so much magic in that. And that's how we were able to build the brand.
Yeah, that's a good one too. But let's talk about failure for a moment, because we've all had them in a career. And I read a story in your salon in Carlsbad, right? Didn't all the employees walk out? There was tell us that story. Better coming from your mouth than mine.
Well, I mean, it was a Saturday. I got a call from the director and she said, "Hey, I'm leaving." And then I said, "Well, why don't you wait until, let's go tell the crew together." We walked in and we told the crew, and then the whole crew left in that time. So it was almost $1 million business. It was $880,000 that
But why
we
why
did.
were they leaving? Why? I mean, was it like middle of the day? You had customers in there. I mean, why
No,
were people leaving?
it was the end of the day. And I have to take responsibility for it always because it was cultural, right? Every challenge in any business has to do with their culture. And it was the culture. I mean, I don't believe that the people quit the company. I believe that they quit me. And that's what I had to look in the mirror and say, what are the things that I'm
Why?
doing? How am I serving? And how can I serve better? So, I mean, 100% falls on me. I made a mistake. I obviously made some mistakes. I want to grow from it. I want to communicate at a high level. And the communication was off. And I don't think that the people feel as valued, that they felt as valued as they could. And that's the reason why I lost that much business like that. And I mean, it's a valuable lesson. It's, that's more
lesson.
expensive than any college education, but I'm glad for it. And I want to be better,
So let's talk about how you bounced back after that moment. You took a big loss. There was a huge lesson learned. You had to look in the mirror and really say, Kelly, what did I do here? How did I screw up? How could I fix this? How could I do better? So how'd you dust yourself off and get back at the next venture? Take us through that.
It's just a one word answer to everything in my life, man. And my mom never cursed in her life. And she just would do this. She would go, shit. Like, and when I did that, when I saw it, Adam, I didn't lose $880,000 in revenue because there was a time where I didn't have that.
Right.
I had been blessed with $880,000 out of 800 square foot that I had the opportunity to lose. And that's been always my mentality, is having that and getting that lesson. And I believe that I'm exactly where I need to be at the exact point. And that helps me to stay in that moment where the magic is. And the magic is the lesson, right? The magic is the story. And the magic is leaders saying, not, oh, they did this, they did that. It's, I did that. And I want to get better. And you know what? I can guarantee you that I won't make that mistake again. I want to communicate at a high level and make sure that people feel valued all the time.
I feel that certain mistakes are supposed to happen in your life. I think that, learnings come in many different ways, and sometimes they cost a little bit more. So let's fast forward, talk about your current company, and you do something that you call, quote, creating the narrative. What is the best way for people to break down their story and the story of their business and how to communicate it to the world?
Well, I think it's telling the truth. I think that's the biggest part. I think more people sit down.
Think, right?
Well, they sit down and create a mission statement before they create a company or they've ever done anything. There's more people out there that my dad calls barking dogs that are, telling you how to do all the things that they've never done. And for me, as we built our company, as we move along and as I help companies, I'm not speaking from a stance of like, I read it in a book. I'm saying that, guys, I've lost millions of dollars. I've left millions of dollars on the table. I've made huge mistakes, and I'd like to help you not to make those mistakes. And we want to be honest with it. And I think that if you're honest with your challenges, you're honest with your failures, that's going to inspire more people than any success you could ever have.
Well, it's called accountability. And, for me, I talk about it for folks who listen to my show. It wasn't until that moment in my life, Kelly, where I could be honest with myself and not make up BS excuses, not blame other people for my failures, right? Like that was a moment when I was like, all right, now I could have a serious conversation with myself first and get my shit together. And that was a moment that changed everything. And I think people are scared. They're scared to face the truth. Right. I mean, that's kind of, what I think there. But you talk about, the 6 indicators for business and life in a nutshell. Let's go over Kelly's 6 indicators here and what they really mean. Let's break them down.
I tell you, they're simple, and it'll solve any challenge in your business, solve any goal that you want to move towards. Number one is culture. Like I look at 99% of challenges in companies is cultural. It's the way in which people act, not the way in which they believe or what they say they believe.
Pause on that for a second. Pause on that for a second here. How do you define culture in the workplace?
Well, it's an environment for sustainable growth. And so when you look at the actual meaning of it, it's a place where people can grow, and it takes on a personality of its own and a growth path of its own. And most of the time people are like, oh, we need culture. I don't have a culture. Yes, you do. I did this. I talked to a lady one time. She's like, well, we're lacking culture because people show up late and they don't dress in dress code. And I said, that's your culture. And your culture is made up of what you actually do, not what you say. And there's so many companies out there that have the signs in the break room but they're not living that. So their culture is completely opposite. So, and it's not an indictment of it. It's just to take time and be intentional on it. Because what I find is if you're not intentional with your culture, you're intentional on your culture.
So number one, culture. We got 5 more.
We got vibe.
I won't interrupt them all. I'll only interrupt them
No.
if I got questions on them.
Number 2 is vibe, man. I mean, it's probably one of the most important things. I mean, it's the feeling, right? You know, it's not about what you say to people. It's not about those things. It's how you make them feel. And vibe can be shifted so many different ways. We did it with music. We did it with, drink selection in the place. We did it from eye contact. We did it from dropping below eye level when we're talking to someone. So you give them power. We did it in so many different realms, but vibe is so very important because even today, Adam, on the podcast, it's not about what people hear. It's about how they feel, and you make people feel amazing. You're one of the best at this in the industry. Okay. So that one, and then process and procedure comes third. But most people put it first, which is the reason why their culture suffers. Then we go productivity. We have to look at the productivity, and then we go innovation, which most people never get to because they don't have the freedom to screw up as long as they write it down. And the last one is the ability to adapt immediately. If you have the ability and the freedom to screw up as long as you're willing to write it down, because all our rules and procedures are nothing more than a list of our screw ups, then you create the inspiration for innovation and people start coming up with ideas because they have the freedom to do it. And the last one is that literally you have to adapt immediately. And that's where my mom comes in and says, we tried it. It didn't work out. Let's move. Let's go.
Yeah, let's talk about vibe for a minute in the business sense of a salon, right? Like there's a reason that some salons could charge so much more is because they're creating an environment, they're creating a vibe. When the customers come in there, they're gonna feel a certain way, and they're gonna feel premium, and they're gonna feel more inclined to spend $500 on a cut, blowout, and color versus going across the street for $150. That doesn't feel the same. It's the way you treat them. It's the way that they feel, and that's a commodity. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the business sense, you're creating an atmosphere and an environment, and it takes in all those factors. Let's talk about customer service in the vibe element. What are some of those core lessons that you've learned in the salon space around customer service?
Never focus on it. We never focus on it, man. We only focus on the relationships, the true relationships inside the company of the team members. And if the team members get along really well, then the byproduct of that is going to be customer service, because most companies, what I find, and when I'm working with, whether it be real estate agents, agencies, or I'm working with dentists, the dentistry side, or I'm working in the personal development side, what I find is that so many people are focused solely on the customer and they go so hard at their team. So they're nasty with their team, and their team is the one that's delivering the service. Do me the favor, take a week and only focus on your team, lift them up, and watch the way that they build the business as opposed to you having to do it.
Let's pause on that. That's a huge point. That customer success, customer engagement, customer satisfaction starts with the employees 100%. Like that really needs to sink in there. So let's shift gears. Let's talk a little bit about podcasting. I checked out a couple of your shows. I mean, I always say that a great podcast host makes a great guest, and I hope everyone listening could see it here, man. But how is podcasting like working in a salon? Right. Let's talk about that. I think that's a real good analogy. In fact, that I would like, I try to make my studio, like if I one day, once we get over this COVID thing, whatever, have people in here. And I'm trying to create that environment, right? I want to create a vibe, an environment. Yeah. But what's the analogy there? The comparison between podcasting and having a salon?
Well, I mean, for me, the salon business was great. It was a foundation. It was a jump off for me, and it was a launching pad. But I found that Adam, I only sell one thing. The only thing that I sell, and actually I don't even sell it, I just give it away, is we wrap cool around whatever it is. People want to be in a cool environment. People want to be on a cool podcast. That's why I wanted to be on the podcast. Like, it's a cool vibe of what you do. And so when you can make things cool, which is adding value to people, contributing to them, and really making them walk away feeling uplifted, then again, the magic begins to just come to you. And so I wanted to do that within the environment. And I want truly to help people to be able to tell their stories. I mean, that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah. I mean, vibe, aesthetic, I get it too. Let's talk about God for a moment. Let's talk about the big guy, gal, whatever you think it is up there. Why do you choose to talk about God so openly? I mean, let's talk about your relationship with God. I don't
Well,
usually
I
talk
mean,
about this on the show. Let's get into it. Let's push
yeah,
myself a little bit.
no, I love it. I mean, if I asked you like, how many arms do you have? You wouldn't have any challenge telling me you have two, right? Or if,
I
hey
got three
man, what,
legs. No, I'm just kidding.
okay.
No, that's a
What,
terrible joke.
asking you what color your hat is or whatever it is, it's something so ingrained. And it was something that, an analogy for me was I went fishing one time. And when I went fishing, I threw the bait out and I reeled in and the bait was gone. And then I threw the bait out again, bait was gone. I reeled in, no fish, no bait. And I got so angry. And then what God told me at that time, he said, look, you've got to take the hook and you got to put it through every piece of the bait. So that way, when the nibble happens, then no matter where on the bait, they're going to get the hook. And he told me after that, he said, that's exactly what I want to be in your life. There's no way that you could separate me from you. So it's not something that I'm trying to convert people or talk. It's my life. It's what I read about. It's what I study and where I spend my time. And I find like, literally, like when you go out and maybe you have, a person out there that's listening, if you go out and have a bender with your friends and the next day, what do you sweat? You sweat what you drank last night. For me, my perspiration is what I put inside every single day. And that happens to be the Lord.
I love it. That's good stuff. And it's faith. And I always tell people, I'm like, faith doesn't mean a God or religion or anything else. It's a stronger belief. When I say the word faith, what does that mean to you?
Believe, the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen is where it's at for me.
I love it. And you have an amazing perspective on challenges in life, and it's a true ability to stay optimistic. I think that's one of the things that I really love when I was doing my prep and even from the conversation now. But Kelly, when was the last time you couldn't bring yourself to an optimistic viewpoint about a challenge, and how'd you overcome it?
Oh, man.
When you're like, shit, I did nothing I could do here. It's bad news.
I think it happens. I mean, it happens on a day-to-day basis, but I mean, I could say that,
Macro.
Well, I would say last year, when the coronavirus stuff happened, every one of my businesses just shut down in one day, everything, like every source of income. And it was tough at the time, but it like wars are won in peacetime preparation. They're not, you don't prepare for war when war happens. And so the great thing is that God had been preparing me over time for those things. And I got called to the table. Like I got called to the table on it. And I just got called to the table on it yesterday. I was, my son, or 2 days ago, my son was going to baseball. He couldn't find his baseball jersey. I came up, I was in a rush. And I was like, you need to clean your room. You need to be in this. And I looked at my kids and they were kind of freaked out and they were kind of scared. And then I had to stop for a second. I apologized to both of them and let them know I'm the one that was in a rush. I'm the one that was bad. And I tell you, it's probably one of the hardest things to admit, but it's one of the most freeing things to just say, shit, it was me. Because as a leader, Adam, it's always your fault. It's always your fault. And it's always my fault.
It comes down to it, right? Mm-hmm. You're the leader. The shit rolls uphill. Right. And you got to take responsibility for it. I love it. And I'm going to take a little page out of your podcasting book here. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I got 2 kids. Nina's 9 and Oliver's 3. Kelly, what advice would you give them to be the key piece of advice to be successful in life?
Well, I would say there would be 3 things. And it's what my mom gave to me. She scratched my back every single morning. And from the time I can remember, she said the exact same things to me every single day. And number 1, you're awesome. To both of your children, what are their names?
Nina and Oliver.
Nina and Oliver, you're awesome. Every single thing that you do is awesome. If you get an F on a grade, it's awesome. If you don't show up to something, it's awesome. If you show up late, it's awesome. Every single thing that you do is awesome. Number 2, you're beautiful. Do not ever compare yourself to anybody else except who you are and what your purpose is. And each one of you is unique in exactly what you're doing. And you're supposed to be exactly where you're at. If not, God would have you someplace else. And the last one is you can do anything. You can do anything that you put your mind to, but just because you can do it doesn't make it the right thing for you to do. Make sure that you're in line with your purpose and you're willing to do the work that it takes to be able to get there.
I love it. And I'm kind of like nodding my head as you go along there, because I think in some way, my own interpretation, I really try to do that, my wife and I, daily. That's truly what we believe in. Instilling that self-confidence in our children, allowing them to go out and fail and have a somewhat of a safety net, because I think that children should be able to face challenges and just know that we're there for them and be able to support them and lift them up. Kelly, we talk about superpowers on this show. We're not talking about, flying or, being invisible, but what is that superpower that you have that makes you so unique that no one on this planet may have as much as you do?
Being dumb.
That's mine, man. You can't borrow. You can't take that from me. I mean, we could do Dumb and Dumber 3 if you want.
Well, I'm saying I'm just dumb enough to think that it's possible. And so for me, I've never been an executive producer on a movie yet. I've never written a best-selling book outside of my family yet. I haven't ever produced a TV show or starred on one yet. I'm just dumb enough to think that this stuff is possible. And I know this is what my dad taught me, is that it's not about my aptitude, but it's about me being kind, contributing to every single person around me, making a ton of friends. And guess what? I have friends now that make TV shows. I have friends now that make movies. I have friends now that are in those places. And what I find is, again, all the methods in the world, all the agendas in the world, if you just lay them down and walk in with no agenda except to be able to contribute to people, and you stay in that moment, magic will happen, and you will stop looking to accomplish success. Yes. All you'll be doing is now accepting the greatness that's already in you.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the good stuff there. And Kelly, last but not least, we've all had our struggles in life. And, when you look back at those times when you were down in your shit pit, man, and you had to pull yourself up and harness that inner tenacity that you have in spades, and you had to find your compass and latch onto it and pull yourself up. And on the flip side, when you're sitting here right now talking about, the beautiful family that you and your wife have created, your children, you tell your story so eloquently and you express so much gratitude and passion in your emotion. It comes through the screen right here. How do you keep yourself focused? Kelly Cardenas, what is your North Star in life?
My North Star is my mom, my dad, my brother, Rob, and my wife and my 2 kids. And when I look to those, they're constantly encouraging me, telling me that I could do anything, and they constantly give me wings. And the unconditional love that I got from my mom and my dad from a very early age, the encouragement that I get from my brother all the time. And I'll tell you this, Adam, just a second ago, today came out the Success magazine, and I was there was a feature in there. I sent it to my dad. And I said, "Hey, Pop, I'm in Success magazine and Tony Robbins is on the cover." And then I put one step closer. And he responded. This is exactly how he responded. He said, "Tony Robbins people are excited that he's on the cover of a magazine that you're in. I love you, son. I'm proud of you."
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there.
I mean, and I tell you, like, as much as people are inspired by my dad and my mom, you can do that for every single person that's out there. You can do that for your kids. You can do that for everyone around you. And when we start doing that, we lift every single person up. You bring out the greatest in people and you allow them to do what they're great at. And I tell you, that's really, truly where the magic happens. And it keeps me on track because honestly, I have so many people around me. My friend Will, my friend Andy, my buddy Dave, my brother Rob, all these people are constantly telling me that I can. And they're just constantly giving me wings. So I'm going to try everything that I possibly can.
Love this attitude. Love this approach. Is a fantastic. Do you watch Ted Lasso? Please tell me you watch Ted Lasso.
Man. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard all about it, man. I haven't watched it yet.
Watch Ted Lasso and then get back to me. Shoot me a note after you watch it, because I think that, what you're talking about here and lifting up others, because that's real leadership. It's not lifting yourself up. It's lifting others up to be their best. And I love it. And there's a tremendous conversation. I urge everybody to find out more about Kelly at kellycardenas.com. Check it out. I'm going to link it up in the show notes here, and check out the Kelly Cardenas podcast. But where can folks connect with you directly? Where could they learn more?
Instagram is one, the real Kelly Cardenas. And then help me out on TikTok, man. Get with me on TikTok.
I'm trying.
Because my kids don't think I'm that cool being on TikTok, but I need TikTok game. I don't have that good of one.
My daughter loves it. In fact, I don't know how good your kids are, but I've been empowering her to edit some of my videos on TikTok. She's great at it. Why not?
Oh, they're amazing. My daughter's like, "You ain't cool enough, Pop." So if you could give me some TikTok game, give me some likes and loves, I'd love that. But
we'll check it out.
Like you said, the website is a great one, and the podcast is a great one too.
Good stuff, Kelly. I can't thank you enough for joining me. Everyone, check out Kelly. Check out this episode. Remember, if you like this show, share it. Sharing is the best, man. Like, I love it when people say, "Hey, listen, you got to check out, Kelly on the podcast. It's awesome." You know where you could find more, all our social media channels, and the podcast.com for all things the podcast. Remember, look out for one another, take care of each other, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.